Awesome. 5:15. Welcome, everyone. My name is Kyle Olson. I'll be leading Vespers today. I spent 16 summers at camp, potentially still going, who knows. Started going to camp when I was 8 back in 2000, and most recently spent the last 2 summers there leading trips. Today, I wanted to tell a story that I've been telling pretty heavily over the last year or so about a man named Tom Dickey. So this past summer, I led trips to Virginia and Nova Scotia. But before I did that, I spent a few weeks hiking through the woods of Maine. When I finished that trip, I got off trail and was trying to figure out how I was going to get from Eustis, Maine, down to camp. So I spoke to someone at the visitor center in that area, and I found out that the closest bus stop was about 10 miles away. So started walking down the road, stuck my thumb out, and started. About an hour into my walk, a pickup truck pulled up next to me, and it was a 65-year-old man by the name of Tom Dickey. So I told Tom what I was trying to do. I was like, hey, listen, I'm going to this camp. I'm leading some trips this year. I need to get to Augusta, and then from Augusta, get down to Concord. Augusta from there was about a 2.5-hour drive. So I was just looking for someone to give me a ride to the closest bus stop. Tom listened to my story, says, Kyle, it sounds great. I'll tell you what, though, I got to get home right now. So if you're willing, I'll bring you up to Eustis. There's a hostel there. I'll bring you there, and tomorrow morning I'll drive you all the way to Augusta myself. I was like, oh my God, that's unbelievably kind. Yes, thank you, please, amazing. So I hop in his car, and we start driving down the back roads of rural Maine. He starts telling me his story. He was retired from the Coast Guard, which he was a member of for 30 years. He joined the Coast Guard when he was unable to swim and had a fear of water, which I think spoke volumes about his character to begin with. But we get into Eustis, and we get to the hostel and kind of exchange numbers. He goes, here's the hostel, like, spend the night. We'll chat tomorrow about going over to Augusta. Have a good time. Have a good night. Thank him. I go into my room, I shower, and then I go over to the proprietor and ask him how much I owe for the night. The guy looks at me and goes, you're all set, man. Tom took care of it. I was like, what? And he told me Tom had prepaid for 2 nights at the hostel. He said, Tom said you only wanted to spend 1 night, but he was just positive that as soon as you got into the place, you're going to want to hang out for at least a day, check out the area. So he prepaid 2 nights. You're all taken care of. Enjoy. I was like, oh my God, this guy's amazing. So I go to a bar down the road to grab dinner. I walk in, I grab a burger, drink, and I go to pay. And as I'm paying, the bartender looks at my credit card, sees my name, and goes, you're Kyle Olson. I go, yeah. It's like, oh my God. It's kind of a first for me. So the next day, Tom comes back. He comes over, I'm already thanking him, and he goes, well, hey, listen, like, I got the day off. I'm not doing anything if you want to check out the area. So, of course, I mean, it's the least I can do. Tom spent the day showing me his favorite spots to spot moose, the best overlooks on that side of the state. Showed me where he grew up. We were driving around his cabin and saw 3 different people at 3 different houses doing stuff in the yard. I think one guy was playing with his dog. Someone was in their rose garden. Every single one of them, as soon as they saw Tom's truck, waved him over and insisted on a 30-minute conversation. This was a guy who everyone knew, everyone respected. I later found out in the winter he spent all of his free time like going along the area, plowing people's driveways. Um, we ended up stopping for lunch. I tried to pay. He paid before we even got there. Um, just a unique individual. So that night, I spent the second night in Eustis. Tom dropped me off. I went to another place to grab dinner by myself, thinking Tom's already paid for one dinner, paid for a lunch, paid for my motel. He's not paying for my second dinner. I go into the second restaurant, same thing, order food, go to pay. The waitress looks at my name, says, "You're Kyle Olson?" I go, "Yes." She goes, "Don't worry about it. Tom took care of it." He had called every place in the town, said, "Hey, there's this great guy. He's coming through town. I just want to show him a good time. So if he comes into your place, put it all on my bill." And I think that was the point where, for me at least, Tom stopped being I don't want to say like a sideshow, but he was kind of just like, wow, this is fascinating. That's when he became someone I've thought about on almost a weekly basis ever since. After that, the next morning, he drove me to, I think it was about a 2.5 hour drive all the way to Augusta. On the way, we exchanged, we chatted. He even gave me a kayak on the way, which I was unable to take with me to Seattle. But, as they say, it's the thought that counts. And I still think about that kayak all the time. We got to Augusta, where I was spending a night before I had an early morning bus to Concord, where the Slavskys were waiting for me to drive me the last small distance to camp. And as I was getting out of the car, I told Tom, I was like, "Listen, there's nothing I can really say to thank you. Like, this has been an amazing experience. I came out here hiking looking for that to be the experience. Little did I know it would be the 2 days once I got off the trail that would last for me forever. I'd love to exchange, I'd love to get your address, send you a Christmas cards." He said, "Sure." So we exchanged addresses, and I went on my way. Fast forward a week, and I get a call from my mother asking if I knew of a man named Tom Dickey. Tom had like a 2 or 3 page handwritten letter to my parents about time together, about the type of person they had raised. I think he was way off mark, but I'll take his word for it. And anyways, the reason I'm telling this story here today is, I think it comes with no shock to anyone that there's a lot of, I've basically stopped watching the news. I've stopped listening to the radio because it just seems like it's a constant maelstrom of just negative energy and all the terrible things going on in the world. And for me, Tom is that beacon that like there is something better out there. You can always make that choice to help them out, to pay for their dinner, show them the best place to find moose. And I just want everyone to think about that. And if you ever have the chance to show a little Tom Dickey in your life, please do. You never know when it might become somebody's highlight of their week, month, year, that snowballs from there. Thanks, guys. So if anyone just wants to take a quick 30 seconds, think about that, or space out, whatever works for you. We can call it a day. Thanks. Thanks, guys. Have a good one.